So if you're thinking about moving to Seattle, then this video is for you. When people think about Seattle, there's some stuff that they always think about, whether it's the Space Needle, Microsoft, Starbucks, the Pike Place Market, fishmongers throwing fish around, or, the rain. There's some other stuff that people don't really think about. Today, we're getting into 5 things that you might not know about Seattle that are really great. So if you're thinking about moving to Seattle, after you watch this video, this might just seal the deal for you. So buckle up, we're gonna get into it. If you're new to this channel and you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about living, working, eating, and drinking in the Seattle area, then you've come to the right place. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications so you can stay plugged into everything you need to know about moving to Seattle. So getting into the 5 things you might not know about Seattle. Number 1, Seattle has a very robust park system and tons of recreational activities for kids and adults. So Seattle is very protective of its green spaces. There's 489 parks. There's more in development. If you look at a map of Seattle, everything green is a park or a protected area. There's also non-traditional concrete parks. We got Freeway Park. We have the Sculpture Park in Belltown. Overall, there's about 6,400 acres of parks in Seattle. You go out on a weeknight, there's parks that are lit. There's adult soccer leagues. There's people playing softball. You got lacrosse. You got tennis courts. There's natural areas. There's a ton of different boat launches. Even though it's Seattle and you think it rains all the time, they got beaches, swimming areas. In the city, we got hiking trails, biking trails. We got football fields, baseball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts. We got pickleball. There's even lawn bowling. If you like playing bocce ball or lawn bowling, there's places you can go do that. Tons of different gardens. There's 8 public indoor pools, and we're not even talking about like the private pools. That's just 8 public indoor pools. There's 2 outdoor public pools. One of those is salt water. 25 different community centers, a lot of indoor and outdoor basketball courts. This is all available to the public. They have open courts, time for open court. There's 4 municipal golf courses. We got the local pitch and putt. There's really a lot of stuff to do for outdoor recreational activity. This doesn't even include stuff that you can drive to within an hour or two. Like out in the mountains, you're gonna go hike up to a lake or bike up to a lake or go camping or even climb a mountain, right? We're right between the Cascades and the Olympics. There's mountain climbing, there's rock climbing. There's just a ton of recreational activities that are in and around Seattle. So really lots of stuff to do here if you like outdoor activities, you like getting your sweat on, you like going for a run, playing sports, all that stuff is here. Number 2 thing you might not know about Seattle. Seattle loves dogs and cats. More households in Seattle have a dog or a cat than have kids. The 2020 census showed that there were more dogs in the city than children. 153,000 dogs compared to 107,000 children. So if you've ever visited Seattle, it's really common to see people walking their dogs in the neighborhoods. You also see dogs riding around in cars. Every once in a while, you'll see a cat on the leash. I don't know about that, but I've seen it. Seattle today has 14 off-leash dog parks to get your furry friends some exercise, let them have a good time. Magnuson Park even has a dog-only swimming area. That's great because in Seattle, you're not allowed to have your dog on the beach or kids' play areas. 3 more off-leash parks are in the works, and those are going to be rolled out by 2029. So 99% of Seattle residents live within a 10-minute walk to a park. That's not necessarily an off-leash park, but at least it's an area where your dog can get a walk in. This is partly why USA Today named Seattle the #1 city in the US for dogs. There's also a couple of big recreational fundraisers in Seattle for animals. The Seattle Animal Shelter Foundation hosts the annual Furry 5K. You can take your dog for a run or a walk and support the shelter. There's also the Paws Walk, which takes place over 3 weeks. That's a fundraising event for Paws, which is a prominent animal shelter in the area. The Seattle Mariners, the local Major League Baseball team, hosts multiple Bark at the Park games where you can bring your dog to a baseball game. and do a special walk around the bases after the game is over. You might not know this, but Seattle has several dog-friendly bars, including the Barking Dog Ale House and the Lamplighter Public House, and of course the OG of dog-friendly bars, Norm's, right in the center of Universe in Fremont. There's also multiple cat cafes where you can enjoy your beverages and snacks and hang out with or even adopt some furry felines. So you guys can see there's a ton of events. Seattle's very dog and cat friendly. There's all these parks you can hang out with your animals at. There's also a ton of veterinarians around here. So in general, Seattle's just a great place to be an animal lover. So number 3 on things that you might not know about Seattle. So Seattle has a reputation for bad weather and rainy days and cloudy days. And in a way, it's well-deserved. Phrases like June gloom, they're there for a reason. But what you might not know is Seattle actually gets less rainfall than Atlanta, Houston, Boston, and New York City. Once July 4th rolls around, Seattle typically enters the drought season and starts really stacking up warm weather days. In the summer and early fall, Seattle will typically stack up 100+ days of great weather, where the weather's between 60 and 80 with mild humidity. That's what we call the Golfers Index. And the Golfers Index rates different areas on how good the weather is for golf. Surprisingly, Seattle is in the top 5 of that index most of the time. While most of the U.S. is sweating it out or staying inside in the AC, we're out here boating, water skiing, golfing, cooking out, and generally enjoying sunny 70-degree weather. The days usually stay nice through October. November to April, May, that's another story. You probably want to book a couple weekend getaways to sunny locales to break up those winter blues. Seattle and the surrounding areas are situated between 2 mountain ranges, which shield the area from extreme weather. So that's why it stays nice and cool in the summer, and it doesn't actually get too cold in the winter. So Seattle, despite its reputation for gloomy weather and rainy days, it's actually one of the better places to live in the world if you're considering mild weather. So number 4 on the list of things about Seattle that you might not know, Seattle is highly educated. So as of 2017, over 60% of Seattle residents over 25 had a bachelor's degree or higher. Seattle values education so much that the public school system partnered with the Seattle college system. They created the Seattle Promise program. All graduates of Seattle public high schools get 90 credits free in the Seattle college system. That includes Seattle Central College, North Seattle College, or South Seattle College. All grads are eligible regardless of income levels, country of birth, or grades. If you want to then matriculate to a 4-year university, there's Seattle University, Seattle Pacific University, Cornish School of the Arts, University of Puget Sound, and the big one here, the University of Washington. You guys might know we call that UW. According to the 2023 Academic Ranking of World Universities, UW is number 18 in the world and number 3 among U.S. public schools. So we got a terrific public university right here in our backyard. There's also a bunch of technical colleges and institutes. Seattle's home to Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, and Starbucks. So if you're a tech worker or an engineer, there's going to be tons of opportunities and multiple career paths right here in Seattle. So Seattle's a great place to start a career, tons of opportunities. It's a great place to get an education. If you're coming out of the Seattle public school system, definitely want to think about taking advantage of that free 2 years of college. Seattle really values education. There's a lot going on here. So number 5 thing you might not know about Seattle. Seattle is made up of numerous different neighborhoods, and they all have their own vibe. So Seattle as a whole doesn't have one identity. To some people, the neighborhoods seem like their own small town. The vibes are so different that people need to be careful about where they decide to live. People move to Seattle and they think they want to live close to where they work, which I get it. That kind of makes sense. If you've seen some of my other videos, you've seen me talking about how terrible Seattle traffic can be. But despite the traffic, that could be a mistake depending on the kind of lifestyle you want to have for your home life. I had a client who recently moved to the area, and they got hired at Microsoft. They transplanted to Seattle. They ended up living in Redmond, which is a smaller city, greater Seattle area, the home of Microsoft. It's on the east side, so it's sort of a hike to get to Seattle. And they weren't into that suburban living. They really wanted that Seattle experience. the walkable tree-lined streets, a little more grit. So when I met them, I thought that they were gonna want to live in Redmond because that's where they were living then, but they were like, oh no, we want to live in Seattle, preferably Capitol Hill or Madison Park or Madison Valley. So the vibes can be very different depending on where you're at. If you like a lot of activity and nightlife, you're gonna look at neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, Belltown, Fremont, Ballard. Ballard and Fremont, they're not necessarily gonna have the club scene. That's gonna be more Belltown, Capitol Hill. If you like to be close to the city in that classic Seattle neighborhood, you're gonna look at neighborhoods like Ravenna, Wedgwood, some of the neighborhoods in West Seattle, Maple Leaf, Greenwood, things like that. Okay, so you guys can kind of see that really with all the diversity in the neighborhood, Seattle's really got something for everybody. So if you're moving to Seattle, I highly encourage you to come tour, spend some time in the neighborhoods you're considering, make sure the vibe is right for you. I'd be happy to hop in the car and take you around. We could get some coffee, we could get a drink, we could get some happy hour. Seattle's a great place, but you want to make sure that you're picking the right neighborhood for you and your lifestyle. So we covered 5 things you might not know about Seattle, and now that you know those things, you might be itching to move here. So I'm a Seattle native. I get calls from people like you every day that are wanting to move to Seattle. So if you're thinking about moving to Seattle today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, let's connect. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'd be happy to meet up with you and help you make that nice and smooth move to Seattle.